Throughout the years, Konami's released a myriad of different skills for a variety of different characters. But the thing is, not every single one of those characters actually ended up getting a fully fledged deck from Konami. And that's really weird because a lot of these characters actually got enough support in order to make them a bona fide strategy. Characters that come to mind include the likes of Bandit Keith, Bond, hell, even Chumley has enough to make him a deck. So that got me thinking, what would it look like if Konami actually ended up making all these characters a bona fide strategy in speed duels? And that's exactly what we're trying to explore in this series of mine. So essentially the gist of it all is that I'm going to be taking every single character that has a skill in speed duels but doesn't actually have a bona fide strategy actually built in a speed duel box and or a starter deck. And I'm going to try and build a strategy based around what skills they have available to them. But the catch is, the deck that I built for these characters can only include cards included in speed duels. Additionally, it has to make sense with the character in mind. That means that a character like Bandit Keith shouldn't be playing a card like Jinzo in his deck just because it wasn't a card that was like related to him in the anime, if that makes sense. And finally, the deck I built for these characters should also make sense with the skill in mind as well. But now that we have our restrictions set in place, I would like to ask you guys that if you do end up enjoying today's video, then I would really appreciate if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It's the best way of supporting me and I greatly appreciate it. But enough rambling on my side, let's hop on to Dueling Book now. Before we do begin today's video, I did have a bit of an announcement slash a bit of a request for you guys' help regarding that as an announcement. So essentially what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to start the process of building the next SpeedDuel box for the channel. And that's where you guys come into play. So when this video releases, there should be a poll on the community tab for my channel where you guys will be allowed to vote onto what set we're going to be doing. And the choices that are going to be available for you guys are the following. We can either do Virtual World with Noah as the antagonist. We could do Waking the Dragons with all the cool stuff there, including Darts as the villain. There's also the Grand Championship arc with Siegfried and his Valkyries as the main villain of the set. And finally, we do have the idea of the final season of the DM era, where Yugi and Atem kind of go at it against each other. Out of those 4 choices, I'm kind of curious to see what you guys want to see the most. But yeah, with that being said, thank you for your patience, and now let's get back into today's video. Alright then guys, so the prior series of mine is pretty much done with. I pretty much accomplished the goal of making a deck for every character that didn't actually receive one in speed duels. But I did get a request from someone in the comment section for me to go back and revisit Mako with his really cool skill. What was it called? Terror from the Deep from the, what was that set called? It was called Trials of the Kingdom. I just looked it up. And I really like that idea of revisiting Mako to try to make a unique deck from the one that he received in Streets of Battle City. So that's exactly what I ended up doing here. And I kind of like what I ended up coming up with. I think it looks really cool. It seems pretty interesting to play and it's very distinct from the deck he received in Streets of Battle City. So if you decide to pick this version of the deck up, it should feel quite refreshing to play compared to the one in Streets of Battle City, which is still pretty fun to play. Alright then, so before we begin, as usual, let's go ahead and talk about the skill and then we'll talk about the deck and the choices that I made. The skill in question is Terror from the Deep, and it reads: activate this skill during your main phase while you control Kairu Shin. When this skill is activated, you can activate Umi directly from your hand, deck, or graveyard. That's pretty awesome. While you control Kairu Shin, all water monsters you control are unaffected by trap effects. If Kairu Shin you control leaves the field, draw 2 cards, and if you do, flip this card over. Overall, awesome skill, really like the way they designed it, and I had a lot of fun designing a deck around this set skill. So let's actually go ahead and talk about the composition of the deck that I created with the monsters starting out. First off, we have Kairu Shin as the boss monster. The deck doesn't work if we don't have it, duh. After that, we have a few vanilla monsters in the Great White, High Tide Gyojin, and Crazy Fish. These all kind of feel like cards that Mako would have used throughout the anime. They kind of fit the vibe and the idea of the deck, and they are going to be pretty important because of some of the cards that I have in this Spell and Trap card lineup. Additionally, these were all cards that were included in the booster packs leading around the area where where Kairu Shin was printed, so it feels fitting as well. Continuing on, we have a few more cards that were introduced in those booster packs with cards like Imariuka. Oh my god, I can't say this. Imairuka. Okay, there we go. The little dolphin. There we go. And the reason that I chose this card in particular is because this card works really great in this deck for a few reasons. For one thing you'll notice through the composition of this deck is the fact that you want to send cards to your graveyard, more specifically your monsters. Not only that, but it gives you a draw if when you activate the effect to mill, you mill a water monster. So I feel like that's a really cool additional effect there. Additionally, we also do have Levia Dragon Deathless as the other boss monster of the deck. And I really like the idea of this because Kairyu-Shin and Deathless work really great together. And I don't think Deathless quite like outshines Kairyu-Shin, because Kairyu-Shin gives the deck so much versatility, protecting it from trap cards. But additionally, he has like the ability to draw you multiple cards. Kairyu-Shin is great, so I feel like the combination of Deathless and Kairyu-Shin works really nicely. Not only that, but just summoning out Kairyu-Shin allows you to reset the Umi, meaning that you can activate the effect of Deathless multiple times to draw a duel if you really wanted to. So I like the synergy there. Also, they're both like water sea creatures, and the fact that he's a sea serpent, it's going to be very relevant in a second. After that, we have Screech for the very fact that we want to send waters to the graveyard, and as I mentioned, Deathless and Kairyu-Shin are really good targets for this. And finally, wrapping up the monsters, oh my bad, we have one more. We have Yomi Ship. I think this card makes sense in the deck as well. It's a water, it's an aqua, and also part of the lore for Mako is the fact that his dad got like swept away in a tsunami or some water storm or something like that. So I feel like Konami could potentially add this card to the deck as like a reference to that, and also it just fits the typing of the deck. Now, the card that I really want to talk about is 3 copies of Slushy. And this kind of seems like an out there choice, but I absolutely love this card. Essentially, what Slushy does is that on normal summon, it sends another copy of itself from the deck to the graveyard. But the kicker is that while you control 3 copies of Slushy in the graveyard and or banished, you're able to special summon a level 5 or higher Sea Serpent monster from the graveyard. Ergo, you can summon cards like Levia and or Kairyu-Shin from the grave. So I think that synergy is kind of neat. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of dig it. And I love the fact that you're able to also activate this effect multiple times because they count from the graveyard and or banished. So you're able to revive these cards multiple times throughout a duel. So I love that idea. And yes, I had to put 3 in this deck just for the very fact that it doesn't work without 3. I do have suggestions if you don't like that idea, but I think it's kind of cool. Alright then, now onto the spell and trap cards. We have Moray Agreed. It's a water deck, makes sense. Riryoku, it kind of has like a watery feel to it, so I think it fits the vibe. Umi, obviously, and finally Silent Doom, because we have quite a few vanillas in the deck. And also you need multiple ways to get access to that Kairyu-Shin if possible. Continuing on to the trap cards, we have Justy Break because we have a surplus of vanillas. We have Paleozoic Canadia and Eldonia just because we are dealing with a water-based deck and they kind of just fit the vibe. Finally, we have Typhoon and Birthright as other ways to recover your vanilla monsters and as your form of back removal that still kind of fits in the theming of watery themes for Mako. But yeah, that's pretty much the main deck. Give me your thoughts in the comments below. But before you do go, let's go ahead and talk about the substitutions in case you don't quite like every choice that I ended up making for this deck right here. So if you want to replace some of the monsters in this deck, of course there are other options. There are the cards like Terror King Salmon, Seven Color Fish, Fiend Kraken. Quite a few of these cards were added in the Streets Battle City deck, so I didn't want to have too many repeats. That's why I didn't add them. But I mean, you can add these in if you want to go full on vanillas. Of course, there are cards like Warrior of Atlantis that pairs up great with the Terror King Salmon and the Legendary Ocean, but I didn't think that was quite necessary. It would have been better, but I did want to have Umi be the highlight of the deck. Of course, we do have cards like Mother Grizzly, Maiden of the Aqua, and Lost Blue Breaker. All these cards are great, and you could easily substitute these 3 for the 3 slushies if you really wanted to. We also do have Mario Katai, which is kind of cool too, so definitely an option if you really wanted to play with that. Finally, for the spell and trap cards, we have Big Wave, Small Wave, Mystical Space Typhoon, Water Hazard, Legendary Ocean, and finally Tornado Wall. For one reason or another, I didn't end up choosing these. Primarily is because a lot of these cards were added into the Streets of Battle City deck, and again, I didn't want the deck to feel like a carbon copy of the other. But yeah, these are all great suggestions to substitute cards in the deck that you weren't a big fan of. But again, in the comment section below, give me your thoughts. Did you like it? Did you not? Is there any other character you'd like me to see like build a deck for them for a skill that didn't actually get a dedicated deck? Give me all your thoughts in the comment section below. But if you did end up enjoying today's video and would like to support me, then leaving a like and subscribe to the channel is the best way of doing so. I do tons of different speed dueling content, so if you're a fan of the format, then you're sure you'll find something here that you will greatly enjoy. But with that being said, guys, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.